What is the city for? What are we for? It's that simple. We hear all the time about what the city is against, what the mayor is against, what certain council members are against, and the media. But you don't often hear what is it replaced with. This is a constant pattern, and seeing this ARPA conversation about the alleyway specifically come up just sheds light on that. But for those new here, I'm making this video as a response to the WIBX interview about the alleyway. Now, most of you already know that's where my district decided to use our $200,000 of ARPA funds. Now, to back up, this past Friday, May 31st, I got a text from WIBX asking if I could come on air and speak about the alleyway. Unfortunately, I was working and I didn't see it until too late as it was, so I never got to go on air, but I was also confused what they were even talking about. But it was a busy day and I never really got to learn more. Fast forward to today, I get a text from somebody saying, hey, did you read that nasty article? What was that all about? I'm like, what are you talking about? And then they sent me the WIBX article. Just a lot of opinions, and negative ones at that, about how my district decided to use the ARPA funds. So there's that aspect. And then today I actually got a text from WIBX again from Andrew Derminio asking if I could come on air on Monday morning to speak on it. But unfortunately, I am opening my coffee shop every day. So I'm working from 6:30 till about 11 and I can't be there. It's frustrating because there's a lot of stuff I did hear in that interview that I do want to correct and just shed light on. So that's why I'm making this. One of the concerns I do have, I heard all of the concerns specifically from our mayor for the first time on air. I didn't know he felt this way or was doing walkthroughs or had questions. He certainly hasn't contacted me, or as far as I know, anybody who was actually part of that project and how it came to be, to learn more. So on that note, I hear Bill Keeler and WIBX and a lot of people now, only through this interview, being very critical of what our district's $200,000 of ARPA money was spent on. And I don't know, I think it's a little unwarranted to the magnitude that they're mad compared to how easy this fix is. Literally, it's called epoxy. It's probably one of the cheapest repairs the city could look at for any given project. Now, I'm struggling listening to this interview, and not because of the criticism of the alleyway. People have all sorts of different ideas of art and what looks good and what doesn't. Personally, I don't want white walls. I definitely want murals up. How do I say this? Okay, we have people right now on this interview who are mad about the alleyway, but it sounds like they're more mad about how the ARPA money was spent than they were mad about when I was alerting the public that people tried to literally bribe me for our district's ARPA money.
I guess I'm confused as to, are you trying to, why the money story is even out here? If and why did you wait a year to bring it out? Obviously now they're running against you. But you're saying you're not implying something. But if you aren't implying something like a bribe,
I think it's indicative of when they found out they weren't getting ARPA funding and then they started running.
This looks stupid. It just looks dumb. I'm sorry. What a shame. And is this how we're spending money? Yeah, we're going to put that money into that. And when we're all done, we're going to have a 13% tax increase.
But also to that same group of people who are more mad and more vocal about the end result than they were about elected officials trying to be bribed for the money. And it just really makes me wonder, what are we doing? Where are our priorities? And that is quite confusing to me. So yeah, for those of you who may not remember, Russ Pelly came into my coffee shop 2.5 years ago at this point, gave me an envelope of cash. He really wanted the money for his building on Bleecker Street. I said, that's not how it goes. We need to use these ARPA funds for something that the entire public could have access to. Something that ideally in our district, the way it's shaped, would be centrally located. And, at the time I put out surveys for people to fill out. I had a lot of meetings and we got a lot of ideas from the public. Here's the thing, $200,000 goes very, very fast. So when we were looking at where to spend the money in our district, we were looking at places and we saw here is where ARPA money is going and DRI, Downtown Revitalization Initiative funds, were going throughout all the city. So part of the logic here was to use this $200,000 to piggyback off one of these projects and just to use the money and make it go as far as it could. At the time, the alleyway wasn't getting touched at all. Not only was it not getting touched, but it was so incredibly dangerous. The bricks were falling right out of the walls. All those lights that we used to see along the middle there were no longer working. Now in WIBX, they posted that beautiful photo of what it used to look like. But I do want to emphasize that photo was from 2016. That was 8 years ago. I too loved that alleyway and I felt it was very nostalgic. I loved the brick walls too, but like we said, it's the same reason that we had to change the mural of the Sunset mural on the other side of the walls, because those bricks were falling out. to fix it, you have to plaster it back up. And unfortunately, that covers everything behind it, but it does make it secure and safe. That said, at the time when we were looking at this, I heard how expensive the walls would be to repair. And we're like, oh, well, the $200,000 would be gone immediately. That would just literally go to the walls. So I thought that was the end of that. We were thinking of other stuff, but then we hear that the state comes through and heard we were going to revitalize that area and agreed that we could use state funds to repair the walls. So now we got the walls repaired. We're going to piggyback off of what's happening in Liberty Park over there, and then we can figure out how to resurrect this entire alleyway. Now, when we were thinking about tying in the history of Utica, one of the things that really stood out and came to mind was the Erie Canal. Because right along that stretch, actually down, Oriskany, is where the Erie Canal used to run. And it was completely what transformed this area and was able to help give us the textile industry that we had. Without it, I don't know where Utica would be. We have such a special connection to the Erie Canal is because actually the first trip happened from Utica to Rome when they first built it. So a lot of history happens here. And I think the Erie Canal is such a symbol of innovation and forward thinking. People called DeWitt Clinton, they called it Clinton Stitch, DeWitt Stitch. They called him absolutely crazy for doing this, right? And then turns out it's actually what transformed the entire state. And I think that is something that Utica really needs to go back to its roots and remember where we came from, because we're at such a place in history that if we don't leverage the opportunities that are around us and start marketing ourselves appropriately and trying to target these younger generations and rebuild our population, especially, the past 10 years, we were the second fastest growing city in New York State. But if we don't stay on top of that, we can lose that so easily. I see it all the time. People from all over are coming to the Utica and they're looking around. They say, I want to leave the big city, but I want a better, more affordable place to live. And we're on the map for them. But I'll tell you what, if people are thinking about not moving here, it's not going to be because they went to the alleyway and they're like, why are these walls so huge and white and blank? It's going to be because, this place is kind of negative. It feels like these people are against everything. It feels like there's just not really any opportunity for growth. That's what would actually deter people from coming to Utica. So there you have it. That's why the canal went down the middle, and it's this cool motif. Somebody said that it is not any safer than it was before. Yes, there was a plywood issue. They fixed that. It was so easy for them to fix, and they did it for free, and that was great. But now the walls are structurally sound, and that's really important. Now, the whole entire space is actually well lit, and that was crucial because I don't know if you know this, but one of our business owners locally nearby, back in the day, it was dark, early morning. He was physically attacked in the alleyway and injured. You can't have dark alleyways. That's just a recipe for disaster. Now, it was brought up in the interview, hey, the key area should have been invested in instead. We did look at that area, but it already exceeded the costs if you wanted to get that fountain back and reworking. So it just didn't fit in the budget. But I agree, it'd be cool to do that too. So the other thing that sounds really dramatized to me in this is hearing everybody play up that it's shards of glass, that we put just glass throughout everything. Okay, here's the thing. The material on the ground is from a company called Ruby Lake. We went out to the facility and it was so cool, and I can't believe it's right in our backyard. It's in Richfield Springs. This company has awards for all over and what they do. It's very innovative, and it uses all this recycled glass, and they put it through this whole system and grind it right up, and really the texture that comes out is almost like an asphalt. If you do feel it, and if it comes on your shoe or something, it does feel like a pebble or a rock. That said, like I've pointed out, I'm totally fine with epoxying it over. I was actually hopeful that that was the case. I don't know why that ever wasn't. So I hope when the mayor's talking about solutions that are needed, that's what he means, and it doesn't go farther than that. Again, the alternatives were people trying to bribe me for the money. And when I said no, all hell broke loose, and it was just another 2 years here of just constant retaliation. And then when I spoke about it, I was ridiculed for speaking out against trying to bribe elected officials and trying to protect the funds of my district's ARPA money to be used and spent appropriately on the right places. Now, mind you, this isn't just a random person, but the bribe came from somebody who is a repeat violent criminal. I bring that part up, unfortunately, because I have screenshots of active posts of where he's threatening to do the same thing that he's gone and done time for. But here we are in 2023, and that's somehow okay. That the community comes to that defense, because from the sounds of it and these arguments, people were okay with that happening. And maybe it was because he's one of the mayor's top donors to his campaigns. Maybe he's somehow supports WIBX? I don't know, but I certainly hear a lot of jabs about me on that show, and that's fine. I have a thick enough skin. But it is a concern to me that this is how the media is using the time to position and stage information. Again, when we're criticizing the alleyway, yeah, I think there's ways to improve it. Absolutely. And I'm glad to hear that the mayor wants to, and I hope we can work together on that to preserve what the vision was for this the entire time. Otherwise, when you're only attacking ARPA projects that were done either South Utica or mine for the alleyway, it comes across political. But hey, I've been very passionate about ARPA. I've tracked more pennies on it than 99% of people in the city. So if anybody has questions on the projects and what's gone down, happy to answer questions. But at the same time, I'm hearing a lot of stuff from a lot of people in this administration go on about what was done wrong. And that's all I've heard about for 6 months. And hoping that soon we are going to start talking about what we are for as a city, because that really, really matters. Because so far we're against a traffic island, as long as it's only South Utica, even though we've done it everywhere else without permission. We're now against the alleyway. Okay. They're against the sale of MMRI, it sounds like. And I hope that's not the case, but we have yet to see the sale actually go through. And I'm just really hoping there aren't actually bigger issues with that. Oh, well, speaking of property sales, you have the Kennedy parking garage. That was now canceled. That was supposed to be $1.5 million for the city. And now the mayor didn't want to sell that to the hospital for whatever reason. You have, the water slide was canceled. You have the East Utica baseball fields. Those were canceled. No longer for that. Oh, no more flag raisings in the city. No more clean sweeps. The clean sweeps were phenomenal. It was just so impactful for people in those streets, and you do this rotation and everybody was there. It was like a walking outdoor meeting, and I'm just very much for it. And I wish we would bring it back just to try even once, but we're not for those anymore, I guess. Oh, and then I remember there were all those press releases last year with Visions Hotel and Mohawk Valley Gardens, with the land down by the harbor, but I haven't heard what came from that yet either. You think if these exciting things were happening and coming to fruition, we would be hearing about it and focusing on it and talking about it. I want to get on board with this administration. I want to support them and cheer them on. I just don't have a map of where we're going. I don't have a map of where we're going, and I miss that. I miss that so badly from the last administration. I missed the press releases. I missed having a vision, and it's just really important for the health of a community. Oh, also, the council still has not been sent down any capital improvement plans yet. Again, it's the beginning of June, and we haven't started paving yet. This is a concern, and I know everybody tells me, hey, it's only been 6 months. But first, when they told me that, they said, hey, it's only been a month. Calm down. Then they said it's only been 2. Hey, it's only been 4 months. Give them some time. I don't want to be critical of the administration. Actually, there are, like with Mayor Galimi, he said in that interview, he wants to take care of the things we have. I appreciate that. But then I look around at some of the things we have when I'm told, hey, there's money to correct these traffic islands and this alleyway to make it be what they want it to be and not what the visions of those council people were. But then I do see things like, have you guys seen Auger Place? If we want to talk about roads that need paving, take a look at Auger Place. Okay, I totally agree. We need to fix the things we already have. Take a look at State Street. That's crumbling. Take a look at Oneida Square, the curbage over there. So I don't know if that covers everything, but there's a lot of concerns I have with the city, and how the alleyway came out wasn't one of them. Could it be better? Sure, go ahead. Epoxy it. I think that would be so great. Thank you, Mayor and everybody, if that's your plan. If you're going to try and bulldoze it out, I would just say, hey, that's politics. Go ahead. I don't need my name in lights anywhere. You can change the whole thing if you hated what I did. But please, just start telling me what you're for so I can get behind it and get excited about something in the city again, because that's what we need. And it's not just what we need and what people want, but we're looking at a city budget that was $7 million over what it was in past years, right? You all remember we raised your taxes 14%. Well, I thought that they should only be raised around 7-8%, but that got vetoed because we were against that. We were against making the tax increase lower than what it needed to be. So I guess that's one thing, is that the administration was for raising taxes, and they've been trying to blame it on the past administration for everything. But when I'm looking at this year's budget and tallying up everything, from what I can tell, once all the grants do come in, I'm pretty sure we're going to be like a $500,000 surplus. And maybe not. Maybe my numbers are off. But I'm looking at this, and I was expecting to see Munis and see, hey, the sky is falling. Oh my gosh, this is so bad. But even if it was a $3 million deficit, somebody explained to me why we needed to get $7 million a year more from constituents now to cover that going forward. Because again, I don't know what the vision is. Oh, and not just that, but now we also have another $2 million in AIM funding. So right now, we are a city with $9 million extra dollars in our budget. And again, I understand cash flow. As somebody who's been on contract and supply boards and E&A, I understand that doesn't always mean we have that money in the bank and it's super easy to pay bills right away. Government doesn't work this way. But we have $9 million more. We're taxing taxpayers 14% more. Just please tell me what we're doing with it. And don't just go around looking for projects for these slam dunks of things you hated in the past from Rob Palmieri or me or whoever. So next time the media or anybody hears, hey, this was a bad thing, tell me what you would have done different. And let's really have that conversation. And don't just throw it out there, some fluff. Actually give us numbers. Think about it. And again, these aren't things that I really wanted to even address here, but this conversation came to me via the media for the first time ever. And part of the reason I hate these is because I found when you speak up, sometimes, I don't know if you know this in politics, but people like to operate out of retaliation. If you're not part of the right cliques and you piss off the wrong people, it comes back to bite you. It's fine, but I'm just bored by this. That's what I'm here to say. It's so frustrating of how much better we could be doing with the resources we have. You got to surround yourself with people who have a vision. And if you don't have a vision, you're going to be led by everything else. How did it go that one time? Remember I did the interview at the skate park? Which, by the way, there's another project. Everybody said the skate parks were horrible. Nobody was going to use them. Have you seen West Utica? It's packed all the time. But speaking of, oh man, there was that father, those wise words he had. But it was the importance of leadership. And yeah, we're talking about politicians here, but it's all the more important that we have a vision of what we're working towards. Is it improving our housing? Is it fighting the youth exodus? Is it combating lead and giving people healthier and safer homes? Is it trying to attract businesses here and more development? What is it? Talk about that. Tell us what the plan is so we can get behind it and get excited about that. Yeah, I'm just truly interested in making the city a better place, and I don't care who or what administration I have to work with to do that. Hope that helps Bill and WIBX and everybody else. But if anybody has any other questions in the meantime, you know how to find me, katieforutica.com. I'm at Character Coffee all the time. I'm also at City Hall essentially daily, so that's good too. Thanks.
In the absence of leadership, we'll follow a cockroach. We actually do.
That's it.
One person staying out of trouble and the events of that.
Yeah.
A young man not being a husband, not being a father, all that. The impact of whatever money is spent.
Yeah.
We spend a lot more criminal justice-wise. I'm not picking on it.
Yeah.
But realistically, what are we doing to prevent something? 100%. And that part we don't get to see.
Yeah.
Because we just see what we spending to lock somebody away.
Yeah.
But what we prevent? You save a life.
100%.
Well, how we put a number on that? It's worth it in so many different ways.
Yeah.
Trust me. So when you build an apartment, they're like, well, are we going to spend $100,000 on that? Really? How much we're spending for that court case?
Yeah.
Nobody looks at that because we say that's worth it.
You don't have outlets, you're going to get in trouble.
That's really just the truth.
Yeah.
So this is why all of this is worth it. Trust me.
In some cities, we got to do a skate park, we check a box. Like Utica's doing it proper, they're putting the right budgets in.
Absolutely.
They're going to get their hands dirty, do some of the work so we can stretch the money to make the parks bigger. Like, these guys are doing it right, which is right.